Welcome back to the program. So the Russiagate story is ever changing. It seems as though there's more and more information coming out each and every day. There's going to be more documents released. The latest is Kash Patel, Director Patel, saying that he found a, quote, burn bag in a secret room. Now, I'm wondering if this had anything to do with what he was talking about with Joe Rogan about a month and a half to 2 months ago. I don't know if you had a chance to see that interview. It's about 3 hours long, but it was really good. There's a lot of information in it. And so the newest is Kash Patel finds thousands of Russia hoax documents in, quote, burn bags in a secret room, including the classified annex to the Durham report. Remember, they gave Durham false information, false intelligence. So when he was doing that investigation, he was doing that investigation on false intelligence. I mean, the crimes here are unbelievable. So let's get into this one here real quick. FBI Director Kash Patel found thousands of Russian collusion hoax documents in burn bags in a secret room at the FBI. One of the documents in the burn bags included the classified annexed files in the John Durham investigation report that includes the underlying intelligence that was being investigated. CIA Director John Ratcliffe is expected to declassify the annex to Durham's final report and send it to Senator Chuck Grassley and the Department of Justice, and hopefully they will all then release it to the public. It says that Kash Patel and his team of investigators discovered this previously undisclosed skiff at the FBI headquarters. FBI Director Kash Patel found this treasure trove of sensitive documents related to the origins of the Trump-Russia probe buried in multiple burn bags in a secret room inside the Bureau. Sources told Fox News Digital that the burn bag system is used to destroy documents designated as classified or higher. It's interesting that these folks didn't completely destroy all the evidence of their crimes. I wonder why that is. You would think, knowing that you created false intelligence, that you lied about the whole Russia-Trump thing, you know that you lied, you know that you fed the investigators lies, you know that you leaked information to the press that were lies, you know that you committed multiple crimes. You would think that they would have been intelligent enough to burn the evidence. I'm glad they didn't, obviously, but it's interesting that this evidence apparently is still hanging around. Let's see. One of the documents the FBI officials found in the burn bag was the classified annex to former special counsel John Durham's final report, which includes the underlying intelligence that was reviewed. The declassification of the classified annex is being done in close coordination between CIA Director John Ratcliffe, Director Patel, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, Attorney General Pam Bondi, and Acting National Security Agency Director William Hartman. So that is pretty interesting. So there's going to be more information coming from that. And then there is this. Now, I have good news and bad news, okay? And I'll play the video first, and then we'll talk about what you are basically hearing here. It's kind of self-explanatory, but I'll break it down like I always do. Okay, hang on. Here we go.
I know President Trump has every...
By the way, this is John Solomon from Real America's Voice.
...right to be frustrated with him. I think President Trump's analysis last week was right. I think my immunity rule might protect him on the original charges. That's what most legal experts tell me, that that ruling is so sweeping it will protect Obama for what he did in office. However, Barack Obama can now be summoned before a grand jury. He cannot take the Fifth Amendment because he has immunity from prosecution. He'll have to tell the truth. If he lies as a private citizen about what he did as president, he'll no longer have that immunity. And that is a trap that Obama is sitting potentially facing. And I want to say the irony to that, because on January 5th, 2017, he presided over a meeting in the White House where the FBI had just cleared Mike Flynn of any wrongdoing. And they schemed in that meeting how they might be able to jam up Mike Flynn. And they came up with the idea, we'll lure him into an interview, catch him into a lie, and then prosecute him that way. Barack Obama now is about to face a potential similar situation as the one he created unfairly for Mike Flynn.
Okay, so let me kind of explain this. And before I even explain it, let me explain it this way first. Okay? So here's the bottom line. Obviously, we know what happened in 2024 with President Trump versus United States. That was the Supreme Court decision that basically said that all former presidents have absolute, and that's the important word, absolute immunity from prosecution for anything that they did as, quote, official business or policy while they were president. Okay? The only thing that it doesn't protect is if they did something unofficial, meaning outside of being president, and maybe it's bribery, maybe it's extortion, maybe it's something like that, which again, I think there's a lot there for that as well. And so even if Barack Obama is deposed by Congress, now let's say they bring him in, okay, and they ask him a question that they already know the answer to, okay? Something like, did you order John Brennan, your CIA director at the time, to falsify intelligence and give that to Congress and to John Durham's investigation? If he says no, now he has no immunity. And remember, he can't plead the fifth because of presidential immunity. I want to make sure people totally understand what I'm saying. So let's say he lies. And he says, no, I never said that. Well, now he's committed a crime, number one. Number two, he does not have presidential immunity anymore because he's now just committed a crime and he can be fully prosecuted, okay? Now, it's a catch-22. What happens if that same exact question is posed to Barack Obama and under oath he says, yes, I did instruct my CIA director, John Brennan, and his associates, Peter Strzok, and many others in the intel community to create false intelligence and spread false intelligence. If Barack Obama admits that, sadly, he can't be prosecuted. Can't be prosecuted. And this is why when we were talking about the immunity decision back when it happened in 2024, and the left went crazy saying that he's a dictator and, you know, he can do whatever he wants and nothing is. I was saying at the time, they don't even understand this protects them. This protects them in the future. This means that we can't go after Barack Obama for killing people with drones. Official business, right? Immunity based on the Supreme Court. We can't go after George W. Bush for whatever crimes that he may have had or committed in Iraq in the invasion. Can't do it. And I said at the time, and I still mean it today, it's a good thing that the Supreme Court did this. Why? Because it does protect presidents now and in the future to be able to conduct official business. Now, here's the sad part. Official business to the left is lying about intelligence, setting up your political opponents, and trying to jail them. Totally terrible things, right? But it also makes it so President Trump was not thrown in prison for the rest of his life. So the Supreme Court in this case did the right thing. But here's the problem with that. What happens if, God forbid, in the future, there's some leftist leader and now he knows that he has absolute immunity and he does the exact same thing or worse? Let's say he goes and, I don't know, let's say there's a convention of, conservative leaders and he takes a drone attack and he hits it and wipes them all out. Is that considered official business and he can't be prosecuted? So what I'm saying is there are certain things about absolute immunity that in the future could be very dangerous. But here's the other part of this. The other part is this. If Barack Obama lies, he can be prosecuted. If Barack Obama tells the truth, guess what? He's now incriminated every single person underneath him, and they now will be wrapped up in that criminal conspiracy, and they can all be charged and prosecuted. So you can look at it two different ways. More than likely, if they do an under oath deposition in the House, he's going to admit the truth, which means that he won't be prosecuted, but that means that everybody else will be prosecuted, because now the person who set it all up is admitting that, yes, I set this all up and these people followed my orders. So at the very best, we could look for that. But the other thing is that if possibly down the line another president tries to do something like this, maybe then, just maybe then, if these people are prosecuted, maybe these intel officials are going to go, you may be able to get away with this, but we're going to jail if we listen to you. And that has got to be the focus here. A deterrent, okay? A major deterrent must be, and that must be prosecutions out the wazoo. All the people involved have to be prosecuted, even if, sadly, the main person who perpetrated the entire thing isn't prosecuted. It's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Barack Obama is going to go to jail for 100 years. I wish I could, but I can't, because I understand law, I understand the Constitution, I understand all of this stuff. And so that's going to be what we're going to see unfold. Now, I'm assuming they're going to do a deposition under oath with him in the next few weeks to the next couple of months. So we'll have to see what happens when all that takes place. But I wanted people to know that. Now, here's one more thing on this. The Trump administration would be stupid to call for a special counsel to quote-unquote look into Russiagate. That'd be the worst thing you could possibly do. Why? Take a look at the Durham report. Anyone get prosecuted? One lowly person, Kleinsmith, right? That was it. Nobody else. Look at Robert Hur. Anybody get prosecuted for having, classified documents? No. He was an old, elderly man. Look at Mueller's investigation. Anybody really get prosecuted? A few here and there, but no one really, right? That was another dud, right? And we're glad it was, because we know it was a witch hunt. Look at the Horowitz report, which was supposed to investigate the investigators. Look at that. It was an absolute disaster. Now, why have all of those reports gone nowhere? Well, it's pretty simple. Because when they are set up, Democrats, not just Republicans, Democrats have a say in the size and scope of these special counsels. So why the hell would we run a Russiagate special counsel investigation and allow the Democrats to put a scope on how far we can go and look? Does that make any sense to you? Doesn't make any sense to me. They'd be better off keeping it in-house. Shh. Lips sealed. Keep it quiet. Do your work. Be meticulous. Look at all the evidence. And then you start indicting grand jury after grand jury after grand jury. You indict them all. And that way, you keep the left out of the equation 100%. They don't know what's going on. They can't see what's going on. They have no oversight over anything because you don't have a special counsel. And that is the best way to effectively prosecute Russiagate. So, we'll see what happens. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about was this. This is really pissing me off. So, this Jerome Powell creature, once again, has decided not to lower rates. The entire economy is flourishing. Every single sector, every single aspect of the economy is much better than it ever was. They said, tariffs are going to crash the economy. They've only made it better. Inflation's going to happen. No, that didn't happen. All sectors of the economy are rocking and rolling. But people can't buy homes because the interest rates are so high. So when you lower rates and you get more people buying things, consumer confidence grows, which does what? Expands the economy even more. But this scumbag, this absolute scumbag, Jerome Powell, will not do it. So I say President Trump, and I called for this back in April. Anyone can look at X or anything else I've said. Put a shadow reserve chairman in now. Okay? Jerome Powell is up in 8 months? Sorry. Put Bessent, put Lutnick, put somebody who's smart and brilliant as a shadow chairman of the Federal Reserve. And anything Jerome Powell and the Board of Governors does and says, publicly or privately, will be immediately challenged with a counter narrative. Undermine the Federal Reserve chairman. Make his job and his life miserable. Okay? Forcing this piece of garbage to step down and resign. Because it's almost impossible, sadly, to fire a Federal Reserve chairman. Now, is it impossible? No, it's not. And honestly, him not lowering rates, I tell President Trump, I said it today, fire Jerome Powell now. Who cares if he files a lawsuit and goes to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court rules in his favor to have him reinstated? Ignore the court. Ignore the Supreme Court. Fire Powell. That's what needs to happen. Fire Powell now and appoint a new chairman right now. Or at the very minimum, if you don't fire him, which you should, appoint the new chairman now, 8 months early. That's what needs to happen, okay? Because it'll undermine everything that he is doing. Like I said, he is costing $360 to $400 billion right now in lost capital, in lost market share. And by the way, he can be prosecuted and he can be fired, and I'll explain why. To remove a Federal Reserve chairman, there are only 3 conditions on doing so, okay? And that's because of the Federal Reserve Act. You can only do it under 3. Inefficiency, neglect of duty, or, and this is the key, malfeasance in office. So if he fires him and he says, well, he didn't lower rates, can't do it. Doesn't matter. He can never lower rates. You still can't fire him. Well, I didn't like his tie that he was wearing. Yes, sorry, can't fire him. He called my wife a blank. Doesn't matter. You cannot fire the Federal Reserve chairman under pretty much any circumstances. However, malfeasance in office, which he has clearly conducted, you can. You have standing, President Trump. You have standing. Fire the Fed under malfeasance in office. Tell Pam Bondi immediately to indict the federal chairman right now, today, immediately, under malfeasance in office. Lying, mortgage fraud, obstruction, market manipulation, and let's not forget the OMG James O'Keefe video that literally has Jerome Powell's ex-speechwriter on camera saying that he's not lowering rates to hurt Trump's recovery to help Democrats in the midterms. That is on camera. It is on camera, okay? So there are malfeasance in office to prosecute this guy. We got to make sure that President Trump does this. So I'll be putting this in front of him. I want you to put that in front of him as well, because he needs to go, and there is legal standing, in my opinion, to fire this guy right now. Next. Last thing I want to talk about. So lots of interesting things in the one big beautiful bill. But this one that I'm going to talk about, no one is talking about, number one. And number two, this is going to help the auto industry in a huge way, okay? A huge way. For many, many years, these leftist radical environmental wackos have been pushing for legislation, number one, and number two, policies in different states relegated by governors against car manufacturers to basically hit fuel requirements that pretty much can't be hit. And when they can't get hit, then what happens? The car manufacturers have to pay huge fines. It's called CAFE. And it's been going on for like 45, 50 years. Well, guess what? No more. Listen to this. This was a hidden gem in the... oh, God, this print is small. Let me roll it up here. Okay, so here we go. One of the most important provisions in the One Big Beautiful Bill has gone completely unnoticed, but promises to make the auto industry great again. For 50 years, the federal government has been forcing fuel economy standards on auto companies. If the average fuel economy of a car sold in a year exceeded a federal mandated standard, that company had to cough up enormous amounts of money in penalties. Passed in 1975, the year I was born, as a way to deal with an energy crisis that was caused, of course, by government price controls, let's not forget, corporate average fuel economy, CAFE. CAFE standards required the fleet of cars sold by an automaker to achieve an arbitrary miles per gallon goal. And if they missed that goal, like I said, they paid hefty annual fines. From the beginning, these standards were an absolute disaster, forcing automakers to radically downsize their fleets, which research showed cost thousands of lives because, all things being equal, smaller, lighter cars are, of course, less safe than larger ones. Remember the 70s and the 80s with the big cars and the metal bumpers, right? The tanks rolling around the street? Well, you don't really see those anymore. Why? Because now you got these fiberglass accordions that you hit a bumper and they total out the car, right? 17 miles an hour in a parking lot and boom, they're going to total out your car. And again, if you're in a high-speed crash, these cars these days, they're not as safe as they used to be, all right? I don't care what they say. Airbags on the side, airbags over here, airbags over there. Put me in a metal tank, okay? I'd rather be in a metal tank. So, in 2002, the National Academy of Sciences found that these fuel economy standards not only boosted the cost of these cars, but may have caused as many as 2,600 more traffic fatalities just in 1993 alone. The standards, which were ratcheted up year after year. Remember Gruesome Newsom, right? What did he say a couple of years ago? Oh, we're doing we're phasing out automobiles as far as gas-powered automobiles because we can't hit the CAFE standards and everything else. So they're not going to be able to sell or produce any more cars by, 2035? Remember all that garbage? Gone. The standards were then ratcheted up year after year, also wildly distorting the car market. To meet them, automakers had to sell more smaller cars than consumers even wanted to buy, which meant heavily discounting these cars and then making the cost up by jacking up the prices on the bigger cars and more buyers wanting or needing them. Car makers routinely, hang on, there's a pop-up. Damn it, get out of the way. Let me see if I can get that out of the way there. Okay. Repeated, get this thing out of here. Hang on. What the whole thing, I can't get rid of it? There it is. It's on the opposite end. Usually the X is on this side, my right. This one was on the left, so I'm looking for the one on the right. It's not there. Anyway, let's go back to this. Okay, so the standards, hang on, screwed me up here. Okay, here it is right here. Bigger than most car buyers wanted. Car makers routinely paid extravagant fees for failing to meet the standards. Last year alone, Chrysler had to write a check to Uncle Sam for more than $190 million in fines because of gas standard failures. And because the government set lighter standards for passenger cars than they did for light trucks, the industry responded by killing station wagons and replacing them with gas-hogging minivans and SUVs, negating much of the fuel savings anyway that the CAFE standards were supposed to produce. So that standard is now been eliminated completely in the one big beautiful bill. So what does that mean? Well, I don't think we're going to go back to seeing chrome bumpers and big steel cars anymore, although I would love to see that. But perhaps you won't have to buy a car that's so much more money and get shitty gas mileage. We'll see. Those are my thoughts. What are yours? Put them down in the comments below. We'll see you in the next one.